Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project, episode 366. My name is David Reed. I appreciate you being here with me for this episode. Peter DeLuise, writer, producer, director, is back with us for one more episode this year. It's always great to have him. Peter, I had a little birdie come to my shoulder. Actually, before I get to that, do you recognize this here? Can you see that?
No, I saw a picture of you and me on the
This
side.
here.
Oh,
So this
God,
past Wednesday was the
not very.
70th
It's lacking
anniversary.
detail.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry
Can
about
you?
that.
Yeah.
I can go get it.
Okay.
The 70th anniversary of the
Oh,
invention
yes.
of the flux capacitor.
Yeah. Back to the Future, of course.
Yeah, and
Yeah. We
so
roads where we're going. We don't need roads.
that's right.
Yes.
70 years as of
And
Wednesday. So truly a
and they
red letter
didn't realize
date.
that there was going to be a sequel. So they were like, "Oh, now we've got a flying car and we've got the girlfriend in the car and we don't know what to do with her. We better drop her
We
off."
better
The
drop her
beginning.
off.
Yeah.
Just a psych-inducing whatever, sleep-inducing
Yeah.
alpha rhythm generator. That's what it was.
No.
I recently heard that you were potentially up for the role of Marty or Biff. Is there any truth to that, or is that a
Oh,
rumor?
yeah, yeah. I get this periodically all the time. So, as a young man, I auditioned for many things, including Back to the Future, as
Yeah.
did Billy Zane. And Billy Zane actually ended up getting a part, but he also auditioned for
Yes.
the role of Biff, the bully. And so, I guess they didn't erase the tapes of the old auditions, and they eventually reached out to us and for the sell-through units for the home version with the whatever the deleted scenes or the added
Okay.
the
Value
added
add
features.
VAM, value
Okay,
added material. Yeah.
would it be okay if they asked for me to turn on this, and I was like, was that a crappy audition or I don't even remember.
Can I see it
So I said,
first?
yeah, yeah, sure. And so every 2 or 3 months, somebody says, "Oh my God, I didn't know you auditioned for Back to the Future. Imagine how different your career would have been if you had been in that movie." And I go,
Well, sure.
yeah, yeah, that would have been great.
Right. Exactly.
So, so
Shoulda, woulda,
yeah,
coulda.
so yeah, I mean, but there's a whole bunch of actors, including myself, and it's not even now that I'm a director and I'm privy to a lot of auditions now. It's not even the way that you would film a proper audition. They had the guy that I was acting with over here, so it was the side of my face, and I went. Oh, I wonder why they did that.
Odd
So why
choice.
wouldn't he be next to the camera? Why wouldn't he be just over here where I could look at him and you could see my face, right? The front of my face. Where how this is how we do it now, right?
Right. I've got
Yeah.
the DVDs and the Blu-ray. I need to go and check it out. Were you auditioning for Marty or were you auditioning for Biff? Do you
Oh, but Biff.
recall?
I was
You were auditioning
auditioning
for
for
Biff. You
Biff
would
the
have been a
bully.
good. You
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
been a
yeah.
great Biff. That's
There was a
cool,
whole
man.
bunch of. I mean, Kira Sedgwick auditioned for the mother, and there was all sorts of wonderful names back then that we were. And that was in the old days where you actually had to go to your agent and get the lines,
Right.
and then memorize them and get yourself ready, and then drive to the studio and park your car and get the pass, and then you'd go to the office and you'd wait with all the other actors,
Hmm.
you know, and then they'd call your name and you'd go in and work your magic.
The
And
before
now,
times.
now, yes, the before time. Now you just go up against the wall and you put your audition on tape and you set it in, and all the humanity has been taken out of
Taken
it.
right out of it. I've come across a couple of actors who really love it, but most are like, eh. I
I'm
never
not
see my
sure.
peeps anymore.
Yeah,
The people
so
who
I'm not.
look
I'm
like
not
me that I'm
sure.
used to seeing at every like similar audition that I go to. That's like the boxes that you fit in oftentimes. So
Yes, I used to see the same people all the time. I would see Nick Cassavetes all the time.
okay.
We had the same agent, and his last name ends in C,
Yep.
and mine ends in D, and so whatever list we were on, he was C and I was D, and so he'd always be coming out and I'd always be going in. Hey, Nick, good to see you
He
again.
brought you
Yeah,
through alphabetized.
I guess. And
Wow.
so that's the only reason I could come up with. Why was he always leaving before I was coming in?
That makes sense for sure. Jacob actually asked the question about so he knew it was Biff. Sorry, Jacob, I didn't read that. Lockwatcher wanted to know, Peter, when you wrote an episode of Stargate, how far ahead were you typically in writing from production under a typical set of circumstances? And were there like what was like the advanced time for, like, are you like a month out probably from shooting if you're writing or in the development phase, or maybe is it like different depending on what part of the year you're creating it?
Yeah. So yeah, you hit it. You got it right on the nose. So what would happen is the writers would get together, the writing room would get together, and they would try to figure out what they were. So Brad and Robert would try to figure out what they were going to achieve over the course of the entirety of the season. Right, we're going to introduce a new bad guy. We're going to have this problem about 3/4 of the way through, and then we'll come up with an interesting cliffhanger or a way to sort of have a really good finale at the end. So once you've introduced the overreaching arc of the whole season, then you would begin to write the stories. And over the course of 20 episodes, you'd bank the stories at the beginning, and then slowly but surely the production would begin to catch up with you till you had to be really turning it out quite fast at the end. So a couple of months in advance would be the short answer. And then towards the end, it would be not a couple of months, but there would be outlines where they knew because the thing about the Stargate was it was so enormous that you couldn't just put it anywhere. You had to really think ahead, right? And so
My understanding was it was the day before to tear it up and the day after shooting to tear it down. The location.
You're talking about the location Stargate itself. Yeah, so it was quite an undertaking, and it came in pieces. Each part of the circle had to be put together, I guess. But there was a smaller scale one for when we shot it for far away when we weren't right next to it. That was an interesting idea as well. But even the traveling gate, if we were inside, had to be contained within an enormous room, right? So that meant we had to take over a huge location, or like there was a Plaza of Nations, if you recall, where we had to put that. So that was not typical because most of the planets that we visited were not that advanced, or it wasn't in the future where
on Earth,
on Earth. So they had to be put in a giant throne room, for lack of or some sort of Egyptian themed place, or a ziggurat, right? So you have an enormous amount of you have to have an enormous amount of forethought because you couldn't just create a giant cave or a giant fake masonry.
They've got to design it.
Yes, so that would be weeks in advance, where Brad would have to say, this is what happens in the story, and this is what I think it should be, and then he would get together with the production designer, and he would say, all these elements have to be achieved, and I will give you the story as soon as I get it, but you're going to have to start building the set now.
Wow. That's it. The number of moving pieces is ridiculous. I remember seeing the concept art, the folks like Ken Rebel, James C.D. Robbins, when he eventually got involved in it, they had a Photoshop, like a block of everyone's name, and they would have colored in cells of who had approved it. It wasn't a list of who needed to approve it. It was just a list of everyone in the production office who was, someone who might need to approve something. And there's all different patterns of these in terms of who needed to approve what for which episode. And that's how you got it done. It's like, okay, this person needs to see it at this point. Let's go ahead and make sure that they have a look at it. A wild, and that's just for conceptual art. That has nothing to do with drawing up blueprints for sets or anything like that. It's like Ivana Vosic and Bridget and all those other folks did.
Sure, and of course, if you created an enormous structure or a framework, they would say, so that cave was good for this episode, but now we need something that looks like an underground lair, so we can still use some of the rock face in the underground lair, and they would repurpose it for that. And I remember a huge undertaking or a huge asset was Blade was shooting in the effects studio across the way, and they had made this the top of this building where the finale happens in Blade, where Blade infiltrates the bad guy's lair and kills everybody, including the big bad boss. And they were going to have to deconstruct it, wipe it out. And our production, I think, led by John Smith, I think, championed this, or perhaps Brad Smith had. I don't know who exactly from our production of it went over there and said, "Hey, it was going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars to knock it down and drag it out of there.
Yeah, you have to pay to have it decommissioned."
He said, "Why don't I buy this off of you for $1?" As the story goes, I don't know if that's actually true. And then we'll take it over, and then we'll take over the cost of getting rid of it. And that became the Atlantis outdoor set with all those wonderful beams and all the wonderful steel and all the balcony when they were overlooking the ocean all the time. That was that, right?
Yeah, and the Asgard ship in New Order.
Was that right? Or that must be true too. So that balcony ended up being duplicated in somewhat near the control room in the other studios, because they needed to be consistent with the design, right?
That would have influenced that design. Yeah, overlook outside of the Gatrium. That makes sense.
Right. But it all started with the Blade production walking away from the top of their building, and then it was repurposed to be an off-world base called Atlantis.
I remember the walkway.
Yeah. Do you remember the room that Ryan Robbins got beat up in, tortured, and got beat up and had a huge fight?
Ryan Robbins getting beat up.
So in the movie Blade.
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I need to see it just for my own edification.
There are certain spaces. There are certain spaces where you go. There's this lovely catwalk.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Where I think there's a bow and arrow back and forth, and all these penetrating weapons that you need to kill vampires with, right? And once they've killed them, they would dissolve into ashy, burned up ashy stuff. And I went, "Oh, we shot there, and we shot there,
right?
We shot there. We didn't disguise that very well, did we? We just left it the way it was."
There's nothing wrong with it. It's advanced looking. The ancients could have built
it,
but it was so high up off of the production floor. It went straight over the top of that soundstage. And I don't know if I went up there. I think we may have gone up there, and it was like, man, this is high. This is really so.
Yeah. And it wasn't very film friendly, which begged the question: why did they do that? Right?
Exactly.
Why did they put it all the way up there like that?
But you got to take advantage of what you got, especially if you can get it for one way or another. I'm sure was a great price, because they don't have.
Well, they were essentially the price they paid for it was the eventual amount of money that they were going to have to pay to get rid of it, right? So
that's right.
That cost $50,000 to bulldoze it and drag it out of there and dump it, then that's what it cost. I'm sure they got some money back for the steel and recycling of the metal parts.
You guys get a lot of mileage out of this. I have a question, tangential to that. When you're
note to self, look up the word tangential.
Attached.
Oh, attached. Tangential. It's right next to it.
You're creating these sets, when you're drafting them, you kind of brought it up briefly, and I'm wondering how often it was that one followed the other, or it was the other way around. When you're designing a set, obviously like the village set and the cave sets that you guys had at the beginning of season 9 were designed to be 100 planets. How often would you create something earlier on with the intent of amortizing it over 2 or 3 different episodes versus, yeah, this is going to cost a little bit more. Let's just go ahead and pray that we can work it in a future episode. Oh, hey, it'll go great here. We can do this.
Well, that's interesting. So there were episodes where a Egyptian sort of stone architecture, or not stone, but the metallic architecture, the interior of a particular Egyptian building, was then repurposed into the inside of a mothership, because the motherships and the also were sort of flying buildings, if you will. So that there were times where that would happen. Caves, as I said, became underground layers with certain amounts of rock face on them. I do think I wasn't privy to all these conversations because Brad was quite smart about this kind of stuff, and also he had worked on Outer Limits, which was an anthology, and so they had to be budget. They had to be budget conscious. So he probably already had a really great head for that already, where he would say, this works for this episode, and then I think all the writers would come and take a look at it, and he'd say, can I write to this, or in advance he would say, hey, this episode that you're writing, you've got a spaceship and I've got a spaceship. And if we repurpose the things and move it around, I know that they needed all sorts of pods, and there was things that where they would go, if you make that for him, that I could use this for this. And Brad often would, I was often hearing him saying to the production designer, we're going to need this in advance. Like sometimes in the middle of a giant meeting, he would say, oh, that reminds me, I have to talk to you about X. And X would be this build that an exotic build that they hadn't discussed before, or one that was going to not only be necessary for a particular episode, but it also, as you pointed out, would kill potentially 2 birds with one stone. And there were some sets that were beyond. They just took up the entire sound stage, right? And they were just,
where are you going to store
magnificent.
That?
Yeah, you can't. So the first thing was, what can we repurpose? Everybody on the show, I hope everybody on the show, at least the older people who were in charge of the show, had. Well, I'll speak for myself. I had read up on the original Star Trek, and then they used to go dumpster diving. And the Jeffries tube came from a gigantic sonotube.
Oh, Scotty's Crawlway. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was named after Jeffries, the surname of the designer, right? And he went. They would just grab stuff out of the dumpster and say, "What can we make with this? What can we make with this?" And if you're going to throw it away, well,
that's right.
It's going to cost us nothing. We might as well grab it, right? The circular thing that the McCoy used to use. With his
probe at the end of the tricorder.
Well, it was a separate thing, but apparently they worked in tandem.
Yes.
That thing that he was holding in his hand, that was the original salt shaker for the salt sucker monster. And Roddenberry looked at it and he goes, "What is this?" And they go, "Well, it's the salt shaker." And he went, no, it doesn't look like a salt shaker. It doesn't look like anything that anybody's ever going to recognize. Just use a regular salt shaker, right? And so they said, well, what are we going to use this for? And it ended up being McCoy's probe for when he would medically deal with you.
Yeah.
And any amount of nose hair trimmers, right, are always good for that was on our show. We used nose hair trimmers all the time.
Because they look cool, and when you're Martouf is adjusting the settings for the Tok'ra memory device. It's just
a nose hair trimmer. Which gives me great joy to know that it activates Jolinar's memories and it keeps your nose nice and clean.
That's exactly right. 2 for 1. I've got a few episodes that I want to go over with you here, if I can pull these up and not lose my place like I did. Isn't that interesting? I just teed it up for myself, and I could have driven right into it, but I didn't. So let's just
Yeah.
pretend that I did that. Nice segue, the nose hair trimmer.
Well, I actually, yes, the nose hair trimmer was part of the Jolinar's memories, and it was the thing. Yeah, yeah. So, but if you see, Martouf puts the thing behind Carter's ear.
It's here. That one is here.
Which one?
The memory device goes here.
Well, I think, yes, you're not wrong. It happened in two spots.
Oh, they did put it behind the ear.
When he goes into, yes, I read the trivia for this, and somebody accused us of having it wrong and having it on a temple, and I was like, I think it was both. So what happened was when they weren't in a clandestine situation, it went on a temple, and then when they wanted to infiltrate Natu, when they were going undercover, they had to go behind her ear, and she would continue downloading Jolinar's memories.
That's right. Good for you, man. What was it?
It's a complete accident. It's all a blank, but then I was like, oh, we would have had to have hid it, because you can't just have it on your head and go, hey, what's that thing on your head? You guys aren't spies, are you?
Exactly. But don't check on the backside. You never know what you're going to find there. What was that two-parter like? I love Ken Rebel's. It's a pencil sketch, and it's in my kitchen. Or my dining room. I don't know why I didn't bring it up, but it's like
Natu.
It's like this big, and on it you've got Bynnar and you've got Neonak, and all these elements of this episode were stitched together.
Yes, I remember that picture.
One beautiful set.
It took over everything, and early on, I think what happened is that Brad said, we're going to need a gigantic place that simulates hell, right? This is where human beings have gotten the idea of what hell is, right? Yes. And so there needs to be a lot of visual similarities to the classic torture chamber, hot, uncomfortable, underground, multi-level, whips and chains, that kind of thing, and it needed to feel medieval in its like mostly hot and humid and gross, and the picture that you mentioned was, yes, they took over most of that soundstage. This is before Atlantis was in that same space, but it like you pointed out, it was enormous, and it went up and it went out, and there was an underground layer, which enormous amounts of screen time happened in the underground
pit.
The pit. Throw them in the pit. No, not the pit. I remember. It's funny because it's such a cliche and such a mustache twirling to throw them in the pit.
Bynnar was very mustache twirling.
And Richard Dean Anderson went, not the pit. We all just started to howl with laughter, right? Because it was so melodramatic.
Before you get into under the ground, above the lava, was that rear screen projected? Is that how you guys got that? Because there was a lava flow in the background.
I don't remember, but that sounds like something we would have done, and it would have been the precursor to rear screen projecting the active puddle. If
That's
that
correct.
wasn't, in fact, the case, that would have been something that
season
maybe
4,
Jim
I think.
Menard came up with.
Yes,
as an idea.
I
wonder who did, in fact. I'm just going to take a quick look.
Sure. Visual effects. You guys spent a lot of money.
Peter West deserves the credit for that one. He was the one who did he was the director of photography on that. So it could have been Peter West who came up with I don't want him to get forgotten because he did such a great job on that. If you look at the humidity and how there was shafts of light and dust, and it was just gross. And he did such a great job with that, right? And so I don't want his name to go unmentioned.
Was it miserable? Or did everyone take it?
It was, there was a lot of sand and dirt. It was dirty and gross. And so if you shuffled around a lot, you'd go, oh, there's dust here. And all the actors were constantly being sprayed with fake sweat and glycerin, and there was the warm lights and stuff. And people were wearing leather-clad medieval torture outfits and stuff like that. And it was a
So
little
it was
bit
hell.
raw. Yeah, that's what we were going for. And so I think what happened was the set became a runaway. I think the amount of money that was spent on the set, and also all the beautiful costumes, but then there was a large amount of people, and they all had to have costumes,
Mhm. You have to
and we
populate this
needed.
place.
Yeah, so I think the cargo ship slash scout ship was used.
Yep.
That was already an asset, so that wouldn't have been extra money. But as you pointed out, this enormous build that took over most of the soundstage, we ended up doing, and this could have possibly been because it wasn't a fully realized story yet. It only existed as an outline, and so Brad might not have accounted for how many pages were going to happen in the pit, because a lot of pages happen in the pit versus the really cool other part, the outside the pit part, the not the pit part, which had multi levels and rock face, and
Mhm.
as you pointed out, the lava. I don't know how you could be close to real active lava for any amount of time
Right.
without going, I think I'm
It's a little
going to be
toasty.
overcome with I can't breathe. I'm going to die now because there's no breathable oxygen
And
here. But
Bynar's room was real. His quarters were really
oh,
cool too.
wasn't it amazing?
Yeah.
And he had that gross eye thing with
The
the trick his
pus.
eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Poor
the pus.
guy.
Yeah, when
So
in doubt, add pus. That's what I always say.
that's it.
Yeah,
He's a real charmer, that one.
yeah.
Man, JR, this was not the first time you'd worked with him as Martouf. I think your first
Yes,
episode was Serpent's Song, and so he's back again. What was it? What was JR like?
JR is incredibly handsome. His eyes are piercing. It's hard not to swoon when you're in his presence. And he's got that lovely speaking voice. It's like melted butter,
He knows what
right?
he's doing.
Yeah. And they had created chemistry. Uh, there was supposed to be chemistry between his character and Carter. And because he had an obligation to be Tok'ra like, it was weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a weirdness where there was you had to find a pleasant balance between I'm um, I'm have feelings for you, but also I'm quite stoic because I'm a Tok'ra,
And
right?
also,
So
he's in diplomat mode. You can't
yes,
oh, I love this human. And I would bet Lantash had the hots for her more than Martouf did. That's just me. So, but anyway.
okay, yeah. Well, I don't doubt it. So that was a big thing that we needed to achieve, to make sure that we were servicing the
Yep.
chemistry. And um, the Carmen was also in there, and so
Yeah.
he also had the benefit of not being like, so he was in um, he was supposed to be not doing very well either, right?
Yeah.
At one point, he
Yeah.
thinks, "I don't think I'm going to make it,"
No, he's
right?
been in there for a while. You go to these places to die.
Yes, yes, which is a kind of a weird. I guess the human suffering of it all was
Mm-hmm.
the point, because you
Mm-hmm.
could just as easily just say, "Bang, you're dead," but
And they
nah,
resurrect you, and you just keep on going. JR's performance, Carmen, Amanda. I mean, everyone in this two-parter has a
and
chance to shine, and I think that's what was leveraged very well. Was everyone in the cast really got a really strong scene to work with, and every one of them were rock solid all the way through.
who also was in there was Peter Kent, was that big guy who plays Kintac,
Yes.
and his interesting claim to fame is that despite the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger has claimed that he does all his own stunts, in fact, Peter Kent was in fact Schwarzenegger's stunt double on many occasions.
Okay.
He's got the approximate build and that great jawline. If you recall from the original Terminator, that wonderful gag where they suspend the Harley Davidson on the wires. Do you remember that? And he comes off of the bridge and he lands
Oh,
into
okay.
the
Judgment Day.
river.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's him on the motorcycle, not
I thought
not
that was a
not
dummy.
No, there was a real guy on
He
there.
did
Yeah.
that. Oh, that was Peter Kent?
Well, it definitely wasn't Schwarzenegger, and
Right.
Peter Kent was in fact the double for Schwarzenegger on that. And
Wow. That's
so if
wild.
you
So he
put
played
two
a
and two
part.
together,
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I'm trying to remember if he was the one. There was someone, I remember someone got, in that episode, they got stabbed and they just pulled it out and just kept on fighting. I'm not trying to remember if that was him or if that was someone else. That episode is just absolutely wild. But it's one of my favorites. You had David Palffy,
yes,
who
David Palffy.
just the presence of this guy alone. Sokar had been built at Serpent Song again.
Yeah.
We have him introduced in this one, and you get to carry it further, and then they kill him. It was one of those. What it's like. I'm
Why
expecting
did
the
they?
next
Yeah.
Apophis, and that was the
Or did
reversal.
they? Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
not unlike the Emperor in Star Wars.
right. Exactly.
He's not dead. He's not dead. What do you mean he's not dead? How is he not dead?
Yeah.
Well, he's just not. That's how powerful he is.
That's
So
it.
the couple of things about Sokar, starting with Sokar in Egyptian mythology is like right up there with the big boys, right?
Yep.
And the thing about Egyptian names is they don't have any vowels, and so you have to fill them in. So
That's right.
um, Sokar is when you break it down and you look at it in hieroglyphs is really just the sound of S, the K, and the R, and then it's up to you to sort of fill in what the vowels are. So it could have been Seker, or some other thing, and so a lot of Egyptian Egyptologists went ahead and decided we're just going to call him Sokar, right? Because that's what is, and of course, if you have an Egyptian accent, it sounds very different.
Right.
So we took on what was the accepted pronunciation of what Egyptologists were saying, right? So
Yes.
so because of the filled in vowels. So that was the first thing. Then it was like, okay, how weird is this guy going to look? Like, how cool is he going to look? And the thing about Goa'uld was they had always occupied interesting bodies, i.e., they were lovely to look at, or they had a good, strong build, because they were essentially just a vessel for the Goa'uld
Exactly.
to transport themselves in, right? And so, why would they take a lesser person if they could be super handsome or super
That's right.
strong or have a lot of brain matter or something like that?
Mhm.
And one of the things that came up was, I think Robert came up with this early on, and then was it Anubis who was rotting, whose skin started to come off of their
Yes.
face? Okay, so Robert explained this to me, and I was like, oh, okay, I see. Is that whatever the Goa'uld inside this particular human was, it was overwhelming the host body, and it was causing it to degenerate, right?
Sokar's
And
body, the host's
well,
body.
and then eventually Anubis, right? And then Anubis more than Sokar, but Sokar, if you remember, he had the veins and the weird eyes. I'm going to talk
That's
about
right.
the eyes in a second. Yeah, so he was very intense looking. It wasn't just you wouldn't mistake him for somebody else if you're walking down the
Oh, no.
street. No.
And the
So
only Goa'uld with red eyes.
Yes, so the eyes were a byproduct of me saying, well, you should have really intense looking eyes if we're going to go veiny and distressed looking. And the eyes, if you look at them really, really closely, are in fact a tip of the hat to Darth Maul. It has the same colored eyes as Sokar. And
Okay.
that was because no one could agree on what the most evil looking eyes were, because some people might say, how about all white with a tiny pinprick for a pupil? That's pretty scary.
That
And
is
I was like,
scary.
yeah, that's kind of. But no one agreed. There was not a blanket agreement to what was the scariest thing. So I stopped the meeting in the concept phase and I said, hey, George Lucas and his team of people have had years, to figure out what the scariest eyeball combination is. And then I think I pulled up a picture of Darth Maul and I said, and this is what they came up with. So why don't we just, as an Easter egg, why don't we just come up with the same
That's great.
color scheme, and then later we can talk about Sokar has Darth Maul eyes, right?
It's a Sith
Some people
trait.
have Betty Davis eyes. Sokar had
That's
Darth
right.
Maul.
No, the Sith once they Anakin did the same thing once he went completely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So once they're consumed by evil, you have
sure.
the sunset kind of eye there, and it's definitely
So,
really a cool nod.
right. So that happened. I think our episode probably happened before Anakin
Yep.
was made over, right?
Yep.
So, but Robert Cooper was an avid fan of the Star Wars theory. So there was a lot of similarities between him and the Emperor, and also um, Ta Tatooine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The desert
the
planet. Yeah.
cultural stuff. Yeah, so the bounty hunter,
Erisbach.
Jones,
Yep.
Sam Jones, Erisbach, the bounty hunter. You know, there was bits and bobs of things where you were influenced by things in Star Wars where you're like, hey, maybe we should incorporate this. And so that wasn't by accident. That was because it was such a great foundational thing to go off of, right?
How much
And
direction? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so the other thing that was interesting about Sokar,
Yes.
after the eyes and the veins and the hood, and of
Yeah.
course the hood, you don't want the hood to go, I am so evil. Like, oh, hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. The hood had to be, had like a frame, a wire in it, and it had to be just so, and it couldn't move, right? And also it was like, okay, you're in your throne room. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing here? What are you just sitting around doing crossword puzzles until your lieutenants and your evil minions come and give you a report?
That's right.
And so I was actually thinking about this because a lot of times actors they have to figure out what they're doing, what's their moment before, as they call it. So are they coming in from outside? Are they cooking themselves? Are they cleaning up their dishes from having just eaten a meal? What is happening the
Yeah.
moment before? It was like, well, there's nothing in this throne room. There's just this candle. There's just this flame. And
Ah.
so I was like, what if you were just moving your fingers through the flame as your moment before, as something that you could be doing, because your Netflix subscription has expired.
Or
I
it's
don't know.
buffering. Yeah. Yeah,
Or it's
exactly.
buffering, yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
I mean,
don't think
this is
Netflix
hell,
wasn't even a
flame.
thing back then. Yeah.
It wasn't,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yes, because he was the overseer of hell and it was flame, it seemed like it was the right thing to do. So that's why we had him playing with the flame as his moment before, because I was like, we can't figure out what is he doing in the throne room the entire time. I'm sure they have the same problem in Game of Thrones. What is he doing?
Yeah, it's
What
not
are
like
they
a
doing?
bridge of a ship. That's what I'm curious about because unless you're in there receiving a guest, you're probably not there. But on the bridge, like literally, what are they doing all day? If they're at warp speed going from place to place over days, for sure. How much of that performance was suggestions and direction to Dave? And
Yeah.
how much of it was him? When the hood finally comes down, and it's interesting that both Sokar and Anubis have hoods. And I always wondered before Anubis was revealed if there was going to be some kind of Sokar, like why is it David Palffy again? He was just that good. When the hood
Yeah.
comes down, the chin is just, that like
Yeah.
you are so beneath me that I'm just going to lean forward here and we're gonna talk like this and no one be
that's interesting.
uncomfortable. So
Something comes to mind when you say that. There was the fella in the original Star Trek who was remember he got super smart and he had to wear those
Gary
silver,
Mitchell, yeah, because of the eyes, yeah,
and he said that because of the contact lenses that he was forced to wear,
Yep.
he couldn't see them very well, and he was forced to raise his head up this way.
that's right, and it worked.
A bit of a Mussolini moment there where he sticks his chin out, right? And he said it was just a lucky accident because that's the only way he could see them with those weird contacts, and he put his chin up. And I have that information in my head, and I don't know if I shared that with David Palffy, but I don't want to take away any of his thunder, but David Palffy is an excellent
Yes.
actor anyway, and his voice um, his voice is very powerful, and he adopted that mid-Atlantic thing that he was doing, and he had done tons of voiceover at that point.
Yeah.
And Palffy, my God, Palffy is you wouldn't know what to look at him in that robe, but he had just muscles on his muscles.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So he was just so right for the part in so many different ways. His instrument being his body and his voice, and his look and his stillness. You know, if you're going to play a powerful character, you want to be as still as possible and let the people imprint on you. You don't want to use a bunch of random movement to give away your power, right? So the stillness invariably gets interpreted as power, right? Because you don't have to let me think about that. I'm going to be evil.
It's the same note that James Earl Jones gave Christopher Judge. You know, don't move unless you must. Make every move a deliberate choice. So, and there is power in there. Advice. There's intimidation in there. You know, it's like
totally.
When I move, people will notice that way. So, and he was just that presence in the background, even if you had to invent Kel Norim for him. So, are you sleeping? That's how Chris imitates you.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, a few episodes later, Kel Norim, what is this? Jeez, man. Oh gosh, what a good story. William DeVry.
Yes,
back with him, Aldwin. Yes, and not daggers this time.
No, we have an excellent backstory.
Yeah,
William DeVry and I. We were both on seaQuest.
Yeah,
and we both played Gelfs. I was the prototype, the original, so I was a little bit slower.
I'm not a freak. I'm a prototype.
I'm the prototype. And he and I had a discussion. We were during the shooting of the episode. So we were Gelfs, so genetically engineered life forms, and we were products of the dark age of genetics. And
that's
so
right.
We were also referred to as the bad word, or the slight that would. If you were from the DAG, the dark age of genetics, you were a dagger.
That's where that came from.
Yeah, that's right. The dark age of genetics. Jeez. And so that was like something mean to say to a Gelf, that he was a dagger. He was less than.
Yeah.
And
wow.
So William DeVry and I wore very mottled skin. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to grab this as an example, because it's right here in my office.
Oh, is this your? We've seen the you have what they use to make sure to airbrush you the same every time.
Yeah, that's right.
I love this.
I had to do a life cast.
Yep.
This is a little cameo.
There you go.
Where we started, and so
it's so creepy.
So this is the map of my skin tone. Now, they didn't do this for everybody.
Yep.
Most of the other Gelfs had pictures taken of them, but because they weren't going to continue throughout the series. Correct. But I was, and so the excuse for this was these were all the various skin tones that were naturally occurring on planet Earth with human beings in the premise of seaQuest. And so they modeled the skins to act as a natural camouflage always, right? Okay, so my ear always had to be this color. These things couldn't move. The skin always had to be exactly the same. So they would use this as a reference, and it would be right next to me, and then they would paint my head this in this exact way.
Man.
And William also had this all over his body, so they had way more skin showing.
Yes.
And there was a couple of episodes where I had to wax my entire body.
Oh God.
And show more skin, but for the most part, it was just
your Navy suit.
My hands, yeah. So I had a worker's outfit on and a janitorial worker's outfit on, and he had to go through what I had to go through,
Hmm.
but he didn't shave his head, so it just went to his hairline, right? And there were many people there, and they were swimming and doing Tai Chi and all sorts of really fun stuff to give you an example of what they were capable of. And the whole idea was that they their right to life, or their ability to exist and to have civil rights, were being denied because they weren't being treated as actual human beings. They were
Hmm.
being treated as what I referred to as HAC, so the human assisted combat. I had actually a T-shirt underneath my thing that had the letters
That's what
HAC,
that
and
was.
I that's what HA, the human assisted combat, which in fact was a T-shirt that I had on hand when I came to the show, and I convinced the production designer to use it underneath my coveralls, and it was actually the Hollywood Athletic Club was the shirt that I had. And what happened was eventually we were going to have to see it,
Yeah.
and I only had a couple of them, I think. And so they switched it so that it said HAC, H period AC, and underneath where my zipper came to a close, which you couldn't see,
Mm.
they eventually wrote the words human assisted combat.
Wow.
So it made sense if you ever did end up seeing it, the HAC would come in good.
They were
And
cannon
that
fodder.
was because I had superhuman strength,
Hmm.
and I wasn't very smart. I was like, well, I should have some wristbands for wrist support if I'm going to be lifting heavy weights. And
Yes.
I also had if you remember, the weight belt, the compression
Yes.
for my torso. Those were all things that I was, because if I had to lift heavy weight, I was going to need those things to help me out. And that's why I had those particular things.
You had to have
And
been 280. I mean, you were a brick wall for that role.
Yes, well, I had to be, and I was actually fighting with my weight, and halfway through the season, we went on break. I ended up uh, going to a much more strict diet to try to get
Okay.
my weight under control. Yeah, but because I had the belt on, it forced me
I see.
yeah, and so I had no choice but to sit upright and watch my posture, right?
Okay. So it made you stand more like at
Yeah.
attention. Wow.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
William, by contrast, was he was like a gazelle. He had 8% body fat, and he just looked beautiful with his shirt off, right? And he was hawk-like,
Hmm.
and his mottled skin looked, excellent. And there was a whole bunch of just really gorgeous looking people that they had found locally. Most of them were local. Um, the lead the lead Gelf ended
What's
up
her name?
she ended up marrying um,
Let me see here.
Andromeda, the lead from Andromeda.
Oh,
The
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin Sorbo.
Yes, yeah. So she was the
Sam Sorbo.
lead.
Mariah.
Yes, she was the leader of the Gelf resistance,
That's
and
right.
then I was the prototype, but I wasn't with that group.
That's
I
right.
was I was separate from that group. And um, eventually, what just solved the entire problem, which I thought was a pretty clever thing, and I'm overselling it now. I realize
It's
that
all
this is
right.
about Stargate and not
No,
about
I
Sequest.
love talking about Sequest.
Um, was that one of the Gelfs had spontaneously not only gotten pregnant but given birth, and so that wasn't supposed to happen. The fact that they were but could not procreate was a reason that the human beings were giving that the Gelfs were not entitled to civil rights because they could not procreate. And then by spontaneously procreating, something that you kind of, I guess, that was something from maybe stolen from, or the idea, the concept was kind of maybe stolen from sci-fi itself, but it's a it's a thing that proves that you're
You can make more of
deserve.
yourselves. Yeah.
Well, if you remember Jurassic Park was,
Yeah.
hey, what happened? Aren't they all the same sex? How could they possibly procreate? Yeah,
African
and they
frog DNA. Yeah.
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 So once they went, well, now we have to. They're not just monsters. They're not just genetic monster constructs. They're actually living beings that deserve some sort of consideration and respect. So I remember thinking that was a great. So they even had a little baby, and of course they couldn't use the Pax that was Pax paint mixed with medical adhesive, and medical adhesive is something that you use to stick like a colostomy bag on your skin, right? So it doesn't come off very easily, but it's biological. It's not something
Yeah.
that's toxic. You're not going to
Isn't that
hurt you.
David's daughter?
Who?
The baby in the Sequest season 2 episode that was. Well, I thought that was
You
the
actually
baby
know
was
the
a
name of the
DeLuise.
little baby?
Wasn't that
No,
David's little girl?
no. Oh, I wish it was. That little
Oh,
baby was in fact similar. So
okay.
my niece, you're saying that was
Yeah,
my
I
niece. So
swore that
that
that was
that that was
her.
not my niece. I,
Okay.
I
Could
the
have
the
sworn I heard
reason
that.
that you may have invoked my niece was because that was one of the reasons that one of the ways I came up with my speech pattern.
Yep.
So when my brother would ask his daughter to speak, he would say mama, and she go dada, and it was that pre-sound of getting your vocal cords warmed up before you spoke that I stole that from her, and I'd say, I don't like you.
That's right.
You're
Oh man,
you're
what a
not a
character.
good man.
That's
Yeah.
right. It was a bad thing. Now, if you haven't seen Sequest, folks, especially season 2, each season is kind of like its own thing. You can watch them one at a time. I love them all for completely different reasons, but it's
Yeah,
great. It's a great show.
I think it's a fun show. And
Yeah,
so you know what? I lost the plot on
yeah. We were
the
talking about
William
William
DeVry
DeVry.
thing.
Yeah, it's okay.
So eventually, what happened was William was in Florida, and he said, "What do you think I should do? Should I stay here? Should I go to LA?" And I said, "Well, I think somehow I knew he was Canadian, and I said, before I got this job, I was very successful in getting work in Vancouver. After I did 21 Jump Street, I ended up going back there, and this is in the old days when they allowed you to do this. And I would audition as a local, and if I did get a job, I would have to go down to the border and re-enter the country and get a work permit, and then come back in. And
Okay.
I was an out of country local, as it
Hmm.
were, right? So I was providing my own money for my room and board,
Hmm.
but they were hiring me as an out of country person. They don't allow that anymore. You can't just sneak that in. You have to
Completely
get
different.
permission from the union now. Yeah. And so, but it made sense before, because the production was relatively new back then, and they acknowledged that they didn't have enough people to cover all the bases. But now they're saying, no, we're good. If you want to bring in some Americans, we're going to have to see some parity here.
Exactly
So
right.
they got a handle on that. And so William DeVry, um, a little while later, I was in White Rock eating lunch on the boardwalk there. There's this strip in White Rock where there's a whole bunch of restaurants, and I was eating at a desk, and there was a glass partition between the person I was eating
Hmm.
dinner and at our table, and the people on the sidewalk. And I'm just sitting there, and here walks William DeVry. Hey, Will DeVry, what are you doing here? I said, I came here because you told me to. I said, that's great. That's great. This
Wow.
was, like a year or two later, right? And he says, yeah, I'm up here now. I'm acting, and I'm trying to get some work. And I said, that's fantastic. And I think I may have submitted his name, or it just by sheer coincidence he ends up auditioning for the part. And I probably was anxious to work with him again
Well,
as
for
as the
sure.
recurring Tok'ra Aldwin.
That's right. Man, yeah, small world. Vancouver was so much smaller than it is now. But it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't exactly that tiny then. That's a great story. No, he's awesome. We had him on earlier this year, and he was just terrific.
What was his symbiote name?
Oh,
It's
we
just
never.
Aldwin,
I think
right?
Aldwin
We
was.
never find out.
Yeah, we don't hear him talk very much. Yeah, we don't know what their two names were. I don't believe.
Okay.
But another one with a symbiote, Musetta Vander in Crossroads.
Musetta Vander, yes.
Oh man! And Terrell Roth relates the story of Don's coming into his first scene with her, and he's, "Hey everybody, how you doing? My God, you're a beautiful woman."
That's exactly what. Yeah, yes. She. That's so funny. She was a great observer of Don, and Don, and she has so many great stories about Don and the what is it? It's the Viagra story from when they went up for the convention.
He didn't
Did she
tell
you
her
the
that.
Viagra?
Terrell did. Terrell told me that story. Oh, you're talking about Terrell. Yeah.
Terrell was such. She's so.
Yeah.
She was such she just is such a great storyteller, and the stuff that she had with Don.
Oh, father and daughter.
Well, they had an enormous amount of scenes together, if you recall, right?
Because you guys shot special features with them in character.
Not only did they shoot special features, but for the same reason they shot the special features were when they had certain episodes that were under time, which happened not often, but sometimes. It fell to them to create those
moments,
time fillers, for lack of a better word, where the Terrell and Don would go over what had happened, what was happening, and they would do like a debrief between themselves on what was going on, because they needed to make the time for the episode, right? And so you say, why are these two people talking to each other? I said, well, and the unfortunate answer was because they were under time and they needed to they were a little bit short.
I'm thinking back, and I can't think of one moment where I'm like, well, this is an extra scene. We ate it all up. They were great.
Well, because the quality of the writing was well done. Yeah. So is this new information? No. Hey, maybe here's a little bit of extra information, which would have separated it from sheer back cell exposition, which was now here's a little bit of information that maybe might be interesting for the enjoyment of the story. And then so when that speaks to the quality of the writing, if you didn't know it was a time filler scene, right?
Mm-hmm. I know that there was a similar situation at the beginning of Nemesis 322 after Michael had his appendix taken out. And supposedly much of the dialogue between Michael and Rick in that opening beat is just ad-lib. Did you get your haircut? Yeah. Why? No reason. Can I see your scar? No. It's such a Daniel thing to say. They knew these characters inside and out.
Yeah.
So Musetta, she was fantastic in this episode. The CG Goa'uld, you guys had been kind of dialing around. What do these things look like? The one that Hathor had was like enormous. It's like, okay, where is this going to fit in some of the shots? You're figuring out the CG as you're going along. This one, I guess all the Goa'uld don't have to look exactly alike. That's what the look refined over the years. Where was like...
You mean in the same way that Klingons refined over the years?
In many respects, well, from one regime to the next, that's another conversation for sure. But
those are Klingons,
right? Exactly. Yeah, the big bulbous heads and everything. No, but
so you're right. You're not wrong that the Goa'uld needed to, when it was a practical Goa'uld,
right,
and it was Hathor in the bubble bath, right?
Right. Got the larva, and then the bigger larva, and then the queens, and they're all different kinds too.
I guess you could potentially write it off as the difference has a lot to do with their age or their maturity. That's not unlike an Unas becomes more and more, right? I mean, with the Unas, I was like, they have little chin horns and then they have massive chin horns, and that's just any deer or a rhino or a thing, would have, your horns get bigger.
That's it.
Are you horny? Do I make you horny?
Yeah, I need to work on them. I'm hoping they'll grow in one of these days.
So yeah, I mean, I guess you could describe it away as if it was a rubber, um, a practical one, and we had one in first ones where you had to catch it out of the air and snap it in half. Do you
That's
remember
right.
that? And
And the
then they
blue
cooked it.
blood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so, and then if you're going to animate one, it's got to be more live, and it can't just be a half dead rubber thing, right? It's got to it's got to make sense. And I think because it was still early in our CG experiences, the
Right.
hole that we made wasn't very big, right? And we were just grabbing and pulling at her tunic
Abdomen.
or her
Yeah.
shirt as an interactive way in which the thing was wiggling around, and I was like, this seems somewhat random. Are you sure we should be just wiggling the shirt? Yeah.
Just cut away to Rick grimacing anytime you need, like, oh, I hate it when this
Yeah.
happens. That's so funny.
But if something's going to be crawling on you, the thing should move, but there should be a rhyme or reason to why it's moving that way. You shouldn't just grab it and pull at it, right? What part of its body is pushing against that at this point, right? Like,
Less is
how does that
more.
make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. And Peter Wingfield, this was his
Oh,
first
he's
episode as
amazing.
Tanith as well.
Did you ever see him on Highlander?
I'm sure I did, but I didn't know that it was
Oh,
him then. I haven't watched Highlander since I was young.
what a
Um,
commanding presence.
I
He's just
know he's
amazing.
so good. I wish there was so much
Totally.
more of him, but he had a great arc in season four. It was, I guess, it was really only was it only 2 episodes? But it felt like it was so much more. You know, he came back obviously in season five. There was just something so sinister and just through the smile. You know, he
Yeah.
was an early
Yeah.
ball in that regards, but he's just, I'm taking my time with that British voice. You know, it's like, oh, of course you're evil. It's Tanith was terrific.
I agree. Yeah. He was a powerhouse. And that the idea that
You could
Musetta Vander's
convert.
character thought that she had gotten through to him, and he was this way smarter than that. And I'm not, you didn't turn me.
Mm-mm.
I'm not, you didn't turn me at all. And then a lot of times what will happen on shows is they have a wait and see kind of a feel to them, like
Yes.
Falling Skies or Battlestar Galactica, or all those multi cast member situations where you go, let's see if we like this situation. Let's see if this actor
Yeah.
moves us or inspires us,
Yeah,
right? And then they
Goa'uld Mardi
write more
Gras
towards
for
it.
Cliff Simon. That was half the reason for doing that was let's see if any of these folks will stand out. And I mean, when Cliff comes back in Abyss, those first couple of scenes, he was scary. That was
Mhm.
good TV.
Yeah, so you see that the writers will watch. It doesn't have to be a finished episode. They could watch just dailies and go, oh, I see something there. That's interesting. I'm
Right.
going to write more of that, right? Um, Claudia Black comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think that they were tremendously encouraged by what she was bringing to the table, and they said, let's write more of that. Let's do that some more.
And with jet lag, I mean, she really the stuff that she and Michael pulled out of those scenes was just amazing and ridiculous all at the same time. So the 100th episode, Wormhole X-Treme.
Hmm.
What do you remember about the conceptual phase for this? One of the things that Brad always has said is that you guys secretly thought of SG1 just as a straight up comedy, and so 100 and 200 were flat out embraces of that idea. Uh, you were in the writers' room then. What do you remember? Going around the table as you guys were approaching 100.
Right. My brother Michael and I, and with David, we had done a behind the scenes sort of a rom-com called Between the Sheets, which was a riff on the thing when you break open a fortune cookie and you read your fortune and you add the words between the sheets at the end. And so I had experimented a lot with behind the scenes shooting of a movie, and so I felt like I had a great a dry run or a dress rehearsal for what was to come. And when I heard the idea, I was like, "This is a wonderful idea." And I think Brad or Robert said, "What do you think about Michael for the character of that lampoons
Colonel Danning, I think.
Richard Dean
Yeah.
Anderson?" And I went, "My brother Michael," and I was because I couldn't imagine him as some sort of equivalent because I knew all of it had come from Marty's forgetful version of
Right.
it, right? And so where there was a woman on the team, there was a woman, and where there was a Jaffa, there was a robot.
A
And I was
robot.
like, how does a and where there was a fellow with glasses and I was like, well, how does Richard Dean Anderson, how does Marty think of my brother Michael when he's thinking of Richard Dean Anderson?
Didn't get to make the last call on the lead, probably.
Yes, of course. He was just a
overruled.
creative consultant. They was consulted and then they
That's it.
ignored him. Yes,
That's right.
yeah, that was funny. Which was I think that was a little poke at me with when Joe and Paul wrote the I'm a creative consultant because I think that was my title back then.
Really?
We consulted you. Yeah, well, that's how I started. I wasn't a fully realized. Right, I didn't have a writer credit. I was a creative consultant. So they went. I guess they thought that was a funny title, and they were poking fun at me. A lot of the things were poking fun at things that I had done on the show. And it was every silly thing that they had ever thought of. They had a long list of, if you're out of phase, how come you don't fall through the floor?
Oh, it's great. And the stare on everybody's faces while they compute that, and there's no answer.
Yeah. Yes, because it was just a film-friendly conceit that everybody just went, well, we're just going to have to do this because there is no rhyme or reason to it. That the floor is not the same as a wall.
There's
the thing with the fruit where it was
the painted kiwi.
Yeah, so that was something I actually did. I actually made the props person take a kiwi and put paraffin wax over it so you couldn't recognize it as something that was from Earth. And I think Joe was the first to catch wind of it, and he went, "Why did you do that?" And I went, "Well, because it's from another, like fruit. You know how much trouble fruit has to go through to become what it is that we eat today.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it developed on another planet, it wouldn't look anything like what they." And he wasn't having it. He said, "That's an apple. So when he eats the apple, how like Eden this is, and he eats the thing, it's a kiwi. That's Joe poking fun at me for doing that." And I took issue with what was that wonderful? It was like a World War II planet where they all had rifles that exactly.
Oh, okay. There's a couple of instances of that.
And I went, what? How in the heck? The way with all the amount of different ways in which rifles and firearms take it, just on our planet alone, how different they look. Why would a rifle look like that on a different planet? And I went, I can't believe that you guys said that was okay.
It's what Rob Fournier had in stock.
Yeah, I mean, but he could have just as easily given them a more exotic, a Chechenian rifle or something, that you didn't easily recognize.
Well,
right?
Dude, you used super soakers in this episode, for crying out loud. So if there was a will, there was a way.
And Andromeda did that all the time. Andromeda took children's toys, and so super soakers, and reconfigured them and painted them over and put little diodes on them and made
the
them
Nintendo light guns for beneath the surface. There you go. Bigger. Is that something that you were doing, or is that just an exaggerated version of this director?
Well, that was an exaggerated version.
Okay. So you didn't do that routinely.
No, I caught myself many times.
Shame the devil.
I caught myself many times asking Ray to make the explosions bigger because it cost me nothing and it just looks cool, right? And then, but I also had in my head that directors who had nothing better to offer would just say, make it bigger, or we're going to kill more people, or we're going to make this violence more splashy, right?
Harrison, faster, more intense. Yeah.
There you go. So I just thought that's the kind of dumb thing that would come out of a director's mouth. right? And since we're lampooning everybody and everything, right?
Including Hank Cohen.
Yeah. And Hank Cohen lampooned himself, a sexy alien. Yeah. And
Did he
I
have to be
think,
talked into that?
no, he took it as a just deserved punishment
Ah, that's great.
yeah. So he was like, I'm gonna have to do this, aren't I? And they were like,
That's
yeah,
right.
you're gonna have to do
Repeat
this.
the line that brought Musetta, brought Anise and Freya into life. That was terrific. The good sport.
Yeah, I thought so too. And the cable ace. Who else here has a cable ace award? That's what I thought. So that was a direct. That was, but I think Brad had told that joke on himself before, and so that it was okay to throw that in. Yeah, so that nobody went, "Oh, are you sure you want to make fun of Brad on this one?" Yeah, I think Brad maybe even wrote it about himself, or somebody else said, "Hey, you made this joke. Well, let's put this in." Do you remember that one? Who else here has won the Cable Ace Award? Which is
I don't remember that particular. There's so much stuff
that was the producer. Oh, look,
Okay.
it looks like a giant spaceship over there. And he went, no, we can't. We have to see the spaceship, right? That was his way of trying to getting around not seeing the actual
Okay.
spaceship.
That makes a lot of sense. The
And then he pulled rank by saying, "Who else has won a Cable Ace Award in there?"
That's it.
I don't know why that is the arbiter. Why is that the arbiter of why something is correct or not? Yeah.
How much of the last 5 minutes of the show was created because the episode was short? Perhaps not at all, or I mean, was it?
Oh, that it was always
that
going to be a curtain. It was always a curtain call.
okay?
For and Michael Greenberg and Brad Wright we're always going to do a walk away as a sort of a to finish it and say, and thank you very much
Yeah.
for.
But
for
then they go to like
and,
all the behind the scenes stuff, and Christian Boucher. It sounds like he's completely riffing on that. That was
okay.
funny. That was really funny.
Yeah, so that came from I think early on we did think we were going to be short.
Yeah.
And I, because I'm my father's son, I was very aware that bloopers, the blooper reel is always the super fun part of the movie, right? And I said, well, we can't not do this. I said we should at least attempt to have some bloopers
That's
in
right.
there. And I think Brad didn't hate the idea, and he gave me some direction. He said, let's do this and this and this. And there was way more bloopers in there than we added.
Sure.
And what we didn't do is we never added what I would refer to as real bloopers. And so you never did see the actual cast members going up on their lines or blowing a take, because he did not, even though we had access to that. He didn't want to pull the curtain back quite that far.
Brad didn't.
And I was like, no, and I agree. Even though we had the material, we didn't use it, and of course that was the right decision, because you don't want to betray that. So one example would be Will and Grace. So there was a bunch of sitcoms that ultimately added bloopers at the end if somebody had trouble.
Okay.
And
Home
and they were
Improvement.
that's fine. But that's fine because it's a comedy, and and there was no balance to, hey, we're in trouble when we want you to care this time, right? So every sitcom is like, well, we know it's a show. You can hear the people laughing, right? So it didn't matter in that case. But Brad was absolutely right that we didn't want to have real bloopers on the show, because it would betray the impact of next week's story, right? You can't care that because of that the next time, right?
On some levels, I agree. On others, I think it's a missed opportunity, particularly, and this may be an
but
urban.
It's not a missed up. It's not missed because
it is in
you
what I'm
get it
about
for the sell-through units. You get it for
sure.
special features. Yeah.
But like what I'm about to tee up is like one of the
ahead.
best bits from the show, in my opinion, is Amanda and Rick on the block of ice trying to dig out the DHD, and Martin had that set up. You're supposed to be McGidget, you're Mick Useless, and apparently I don't know who it was that said, okay, that was your one, and we're not going to do those anymore. So my understanding is that someone put the kibosh on things like that afterwards.
Well, that was that you had to plan that, right? Like as amazing as Amanda is, I think she had a little bit of warning that that's what she was going to say.
Oh, for sure.
Like
that was a setup.
So I mean,
I was looking forward to more of those over the seasons as it advanced, and it didn't really happen, other than like Lou Diamond Phillips did with one of the Orsini years later. So
right. So the hours are long, and it gets, every once in a while you need to pick me up, and that seems like something that you would do. And if everybody is willing to play, then great. I mean, the actors on Universe were incredibly funny. They had a lovely sense of humor, and a lot of them worked on comedies before and after that show. So it doesn't surprise me that they would cut up quite a bit. And the idea that you weren't allowed to do that, there was a very loose, a free-feeling, loose, comedic. But it's just that whether or not the material would see the light of day.
Okay.
Whether it was in good fun or, you didn't want to punch down or compromise anybody.
No, for sure. And they've got enough dialogue to remember anyway, so it's a lot to ask for it. Okay, by the way, can you screw around for a minute here? It's like, but I've got all this stuff. This is a two-hander for most of this episode. Really? Right. So
most of the things that you're seeing in Wormhole X-Treme are a collection of weird or conceits or things, the complaints that the writers had about things that they ended up not liking or ended up getting stuck with. The whole Zat gun thing about it makes it disappear, and that was something that they established early on, and I think it was 1969, that they hated and they wished they hadn't done it. But when they had to make something they had to make something disappear.
Yeah.
And then the Zat had the ability to unlock a door if you shot it.
Break locks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's great. And then Michael Shanks just started to hate the thing. And because it looked like a phallus, he was, even more against it, right? And he was like, I don't want to carry this. And I remember there was at least 2 times where I asked him, I said, I need you to have this because I'm reusing a puddle pass-through from 1969, and you had it on your hip, and he's like, "I'm not pulling it out." I said, "You don't have to pull it out. I just have to have you wear it because we're using the puddle pass-through to save on time and money." So I ended up using that puddle pass-through several times, but which required them to be wearing the same things.
Continuity. Absolutely. Yeah. You guys did that a couple of times. And the Ergo episode is just reused from the beginning of the 5th race. So, there's a chance to save on some dough there and not have to go and reshoot something. You take back the hours, the precious seconds that you've got where you can.
Sure. But also repurposing a spaceship going by was also, there was, if you animated one shot of a spaceship going by the camera, and then you watched it go by the camera. So you'd get one use out of the spaceship doing a 180. Then you'd get a second use out of the spaceship just getting right to the camera right before it starts to turn.
Yes.
There's 2 uses. Now, after it's turned, uses the same shot after the spinning, the camera has spun, and you show it going away. Now, that's 3 uses, right? Now you flip it, you use the mirror of it,
the other side,
and you use the 180 going the other way. Then you use the 180 just the first half, then just the second. You got 6 versions of the same shot. Now, skip ahead to when Brad Wright says, "Hey, what do you think about a spaceship that is not symmetrical and it looks like an aircraft carrier and just has this thing on the one side?"
Yeah, you can't flip it. You could flip the Carter ship in Prometheus. You couldn't do that with.
Yeah, I immediately said, "Well, it's not symmetrical anymore. You can't get those extra uses." So 6 became 3 shots. You could only use the 3 shots instead of the 6 shots. Once you make the ship not symmetrical, because you would be able to see that the tower had gone from one side to the other.
Jeez. The amount of ways that you guys came up with for cost cutting, it's just extraordinary. But you had to do that because it wasn't like you were starved of money, but you wanted to maximize everything. You wanted to maximize the dollar.
But it wasn't feature money. It wasn't feature film money. We still shot 7, 8, 9 10 pages a day. It
Yeah.
wasn't like feature movie. When I'd see Tarantino complaining about the fact that he's got to shoot a whole scene in 3 days. I go,
Aw,
oh, you poor
poor
thing.
thing.
That's terrible. Yeah. No. You know what? Interesting side note is that in Seattle, there's a, a museum of popular culture.
We sold the
And
Stargate there. The first prop works
okay,
auction was there.
so that would explain why I saw all those wonderful things there. So I saw the ray gun from Wormhole X-Treme that my brother was carrying.
Yes, we sold
I
that
saw
at
I
that
saw
auction.
the Ronin's gun on display as
That's
well.
right.
Yeah,
Yes, no,
and I
they've got
saw
the
the
Stargate
original,
somewhere. They've got the
and,
location gate.
and they have Kirk's original captain's chair
They
there
do
too. Yeah,
indeed. Absolutely.
yeah. I was thrilled and amazed because I was walking through this museum, and suddenly I'm looking at a prop that was handed to me by the prop master and going, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool." And my brother ends up wielding it in Wormhole X-Treme.
You
Yeah, and
guys, yeah, the black
and
and
then
gold ray gun.
and Ronan's gun, which I had seen many times, with him flipping it
Uh-huh.
and while I was trying to give him direction, and he was easily distracted, and he'd be flipping it and whipping it like that, and I'd say, "Okay, so are we good?" And he'd say, "What?" I go, "Oh God,
Oh
you haven't
God.
heard a thing I said because you were flipping your gun around."
Oh
Okay, yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah,
Oh man, no, that's it's a great experience. Yeah, it's a pop culture museum in Seattle. It's just at the base of the Space Needle. They've got a bunch of Stargate stuff in there. Was wondering whenever they would put the Stargate, the location Milky Way, get on display, but I'm not sure if they ever have. But there's all kinds of Stargate stuff in there as well. We sold we sold 300 or 400 pieces over the course of 2 days. And you guys are a part of sci-fi history. It only makes sense that, a few of those pieces would pop up behind glass. But it's I'm sure it's still, a hoot to go, "Oh, look, I remember that."
yeah.
So cool
Do they
stuff,
have
man.
any of those? Did they have any of those pieces you have in the background there?
Yeah,
Do they
none
have
of these
the
are one of a
the
kind. I'm gonna have to think. I don't remember what all they bought. The location Stargate is the one thing that I remember they bought because it was 75 grand before the buyer's premium. They paid 75 grand for the location Stargate, but there was no
Mhm.
pedestal with it. They would have to rebuild, the steps for it or something.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great piece. We were supposed to have it for the first live auction, and that was the exact same week that SGU season 2 was filming on Langara in, and I never remember the name of the episode, for when they go back to the Milky Way galaxy in the episode Seizure. The exact same week. And Mark Davidson came down the week before with one of his guys to count all the pieces, and then a truck came in and took it away. We were supposed to have it there for the live auction. It was like timing, man. It's 100 miles north. But you know what? You do what you can. And the nice thing was we didn't have to ship it up there because it was already there. So it just transferred from Vancouver to Seattle.
Wow. That's
Exactly.
awesome.
I've got some fan questions for you if you got a little bit more time.
Sure,
All
sure.
righty. Kevin Weaver, do you have any fun stories, Peter, from the episode of Supernatural that you guest starred in? Was it fun to see you being? It was fun to see you being a bad guy.
Oh yeah, that was the reason I was there was because of Kim Manners. Kim Manners was a producer. He's since passed away. An incredible, a very talented man. He directed the pilot of 21 Jump Street and many episodes since then. So I had some history with them, and I think it was his idea to bring me out to play this agent. Um, and I think in his mind, what gave me credibility was that I was a little bit recognizable, and so it was improbable that I was a demon or I was gonna spoilers alert, I was a demon or I was gonna die quickly. And so they had me in, got put a suit on. I came out, and I've been waiting. The demon that is in my body has been waiting to be contacted. by these guys, and once I get notified, I go out and then I try to kill them. And I had to wear what they call scleral, all black uh, s- uh, contact lenses over the entirety of my
Oh,
eye,
because you're possessed.
and because I was possessed, and I had a tiny little dot so I could see. So that was
Wow.
interesting because I had never done it myself, but I had seen, I had
Yeah.
directed many actors who had done it before, and I was like, oh, so this is what it's like. Yeah, you feel incredibly vulnerable because this is all you can see, right? It's just that one part ahead of you, right?
Man.
And um, also, when I think at one point they say an incantation over me, and I'm the demon is purged from me, and the way that the demon comes out of you is you basically you vomit it up, and all these, the. Do you ever see the Green Mile? You remember that
It's basically pestilence. Yeah.
okay, so the pestilence comes out, and yeah, I mean, I had to scream and scream with my mouth open, and they had the thing.
They fly
And I
away.
always remember that, Rob Fournier was there.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. There would have
Rob
been a lot of
Fournier
guns in
was there.
Supernatural. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Fournier was there. And there was a gun. My job as a character was I was going to execute them. They were trapped in the cell, and I was going to shoot them with a gun. And of course, there's always some silly bit of there's always some silly bit of choreography where somebody with a gun sorts of brings it around, and the guy whacks it out of his hand. And I was like, well, how am I not going to kill them if they're stuck in a cell and I've got a gun and I'm out here? Like, how are they going to defeat me? And the answer was, you stick the gun through the bars so that they can grab it. And I
Yeah.
go, but and then of course the question comes, why would I do that? And the answer is always so they can disarm you.
That's it.
Not because it makes sense. Yeah.
Well,
And
the
go ahead.
Stand. I mean, they're one of my favorite moments from the original Stand. McGarris's
Yeah. Yeah.
is Lloyd Henry just trying to shoot my favorite Martian, and it ricochets off the bars, and Randall Flagg goes, "What are you? Are you? You're standing right in front of him." So I mean, it just makes sense to give the
Yeah.
heroes a chance to
Yeah,
grab the
I
gun.
guess there's that. I didn't
Yeah.
want it to ricochet off the bar, so that's why I did it that way. Yeah. And it did that, and I think I remember that because the bars were not that far apart,
Ah,
it was a bit of a deal. And when they were disarming me, I got my arm wrenched a little bit, and I had to say the
oh,
safe word. I had to say cinnamon, cinnamon, cinnamon. Hold on a second. Yeah,
cinnamon.
yeah.
Jeez,
Well,
man.
whatever your safe word
Whatever
is,
your safe word is, there you
Yeah.
go.
Puppies, puppies. I don't know.
Raj Luthra wanted to know, looking back on your career as a director, is there anything that you do or know or are strategic about now that, you know what, if you could give yourself one note that you would have given to the younger version of you who was directing? I'm curious.
One note. So early on in my career, I um, I what happens is when you start directing, you start to spin, and
Yeah.
you think I've got to solve all these problems, and how could I possibly do it all? So there's this uh, take it easy. The prep is this long. You have this much time to figure out what the issues are. One day at a time.
Mm.
We'll fix today's problems today and tomorrow's problems tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
also the idea that you have to know everything. So you're surrounded by a team of really, really smart people who've been doing this for a really long time, and they've got tons of experience on knowing what works and what doesn't work. And when they ask you a question, instead of you thinking, well, I've got to tell them, and they seem to know better than I do, but I'm going to tell them, an excellent way is just allow yourself to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm willing to listen to what your feedback, or do you have any suggestions? And then just like Kirk did in Star Trek, he would take this, and then he would
Mm-hmm.
make the most interesting So he would get recommendations from his crew, and then he would make a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which made him an excellent team leader. So I would say, before I realized this, it's okay to say I don't know, because the crew knows you're not
Can't know
fooling
everything.
anybody.
Okay.
But the crew knows you don't know what you're talking about. If in the first 5 minutes, when you block a scene, when you first walk out onto the floor and you block a scene, the crew's sitting there and saying, "Okay, let's see what he does." Okay, he's got these people with their face towards the camera, great. And now he's got that. Okay, he's got it.
This is not their first rodeo. How's he going to handle
now he's
this?
sending an actor all the way over there.
That's right.
But that's a whole extra setup that is unnecessary. If that actor was just here, we would know he doesn't know what he's doing, or he does know what he is. So you're not fooling them within the first 5 minutes. They know if you know what you're doing in terms of blocking and what your experience level is, so, or if you're willing to what do you call it? Improvise. If you can improvise and overcome, and if you're a problem solver, that's great. So the first, I guess the short answer would be, it's okay to say I don't know. Ask everyone around you. They got tons of experience, and you, just because they make a suggestion doesn't mean you have to take it. But you would do well to listen to the advice of the people around you.
How many ADs did you normally operate with? And
well, you've got the first AD, and then he's got his team of people, right? The second and the third, and then Tad, the training AD. Right?
Is it their job? Is it your? Are you able to lean on them, or is it more of a back and forth of leaning on each other, or dividing and conquering in terms of responsibilities?
Yeah. So an assistant director, his main function is to keep everything moving and to disseminate information, right?
Okay.
So he's not actually coming up with shots or shot designs, or some assistant directors will, as a side thing, make a suggestion, but they're mostly there to keep you on track and on time.
I thought that's what the line producer did.
The line producer's job is to hire and fire and do budget considerations. Yeah, and many ADs become line producers.
Right.
But the first AD's job is to break down the script and come up with a schedule and figure out what you're going to shoot on what
Wow,
day,
that's
right?
their job. Yeah. Okay.
And then they stand right next to you and they say, is this the last shot in the scene? Yes. Okay. Warm up so-and-so for the next scene. Great. And then you get the last shot and say, okay, send travel the actors, and then they're standing there. You finish the scene. Now you've got the actors for the next scene, and you're going to block the next scene, right? So that's
wow.
They're keeping everything tickety-boo, right?
So they're your wingman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And so first AD often will say, I've scheduled this much material for this day. Do you feel that this is achievable? And you can talk it through, and you say, well, this is too much work, or this is I think we can achieve this within the allotted time frame, because everyone catches hell if you go over your allotted 12-hour day, right? Because then you're getting into
huge money.
Ridiculous overtime.
Wow.
And you don't want to do that. So if you've scheduled too much work, you want to be able to move the work around, but the locations dictate what you're going to shoot on which days, right? And then so you don't want to move, because move is a four-letter word, and every time you move the unit, that's time that you don't have actors in front of the camera, right? So what you want to do is and Brad was a genius about this. He would say, we only have a half a day with these locations, and what we really should have, if this is an exotic location, what we really should have is a full day. And so we need to write more scenes for that location,
right?
Or none at all, or move all of the scenes from this half day to a totally different place, so that we can make a full day somewhere else, right? So he was really, really smart about that kind of stuff.
And locations came in handy with that too. I mean, if there was a house and a school, shot in the same episode, they were very generally on the same street, based on what Smith was saying.
That's called marrying locations, right? So if you had two different houses, you might as well shoot in the same house and just in a different spot.
Yep. Hammond and Kinsey. Yep. And Chain of Command. Exactly.
So you could save yourself the location fee or moving, And if you, like as you pointed out, if you had a school, if you knew you had a half day at a school and a half day at a house, you're going to want to have those two things right next to each other.
Wow.
And so then now you're not loading all your equipment from the school into a truck, having the truck drive, and then you unload the truck and then go into the house. Imagine how much time you're going to lose doing that. But if you unload the truck once and all of your dressing room trailers and all of your trucks and all of your circus, what we call the circus, the support equipment, is just sitting there. Then you use that as a hub, and you say, here's our hub. We go to the school, then we eat lunch, and now we go to the house. And then so in that geographic area, you've shot one day. And so you had to think in those terms, because it was inconceivable, especially with the size of our unit, that we would ever move.
Yeah.
That we couldn't move. And in fact, I think we never actually moved our stuff, because it was just a bad idea to move, to pack up and go somewhere else.
Are we here? We're here.
Yeah. So if we were at a rock quarry and we had 3.5 days, well, we had to either make it 3 days or 4 days. We had to add more screen time to that, right? Because you can't shoot anything else at a rock quarry other than rocks.
The location, that's it.
Yeah.
Just go to your happy place.
Yeah.
How much hell was there to pay if you went into overtime too many times?
Well,
how big a deal was this?
Well, it was frowned upon if you didn't.
Sure.
But I wouldn't get. John Smith wouldn't shake my hand. Isn't that crazy? So
he never raised his voice. So
no, that wasn't his style. But he was a producer on 21 Jump Street, and he was one of the guys that welcomed me over. He was the main guy who welcomed me over to Stargate. So early on, this is so one of the lessons I learned from watching my dad and Burt Reynolds was they would just leave it rolling. This was in the old days with film, when you only had 10 minutes of film. Yeah. And that's why they have so many wonderful bloopers, is they would just leave it rolling. So they get punchy, they get drunk with fatigue, and then they would start to try to do a scene. They go, hold on, I start over. All right, now say, no, I'm laughing. Hold on. All right. Okay, now I get the line. And then that was in lieu of stopping, cutting, putting the makeup on, reslating, and then starting again, because they knew they had about 10 minutes worth of time, because it was actual film going through the camera.
And there's someone keeping track of all the time codes while you're going, so you're good.
So they would leave it going.
Yeah.
And so why is that different from how they were doing it back then? In the old days, you would say, I would take one, I would blow a line, you'd stop. Or an actor would blow a line, stop. Take two, blow a line, stop. Take three, blow a line, stop. Take four. It's not very good. Take five. Oh, that was a good one. And one, so you did 5 takes to get one good one all the way through, which meant, and then you would only print the one take of it, but you had to do it 5 times. But my way was, we'll do the first take and you blow the line, just pick it up and keep going, but you're forcing a cut there. It doesn't really matter, because you could, if you picked it up from the beginning of your line, you could cut away to somebody else and come back. Or if you never did get the line properly on the second take, you get it right. Okay, so I'll print 1 and 2. I'll print 2 takes instead of waiting till the 5th take to get it right. So I printed 2 takes, and I'm moving on sooner. Right? I don't have the 3 extra takes to get to the take 5. Now imagine 7 people around a boardroom table talking, and each one of them needs 5 takes to get their thing.
And they all have a coffee mug.
Now imagine, instead of that, I just print the first 2 or 3 takes and move on. So I get the thing from John Smith. He comes down and he goes, "Hey, you're printing too much material." And I say, "What do you mean I'm printing too much material?" And he goes, "Well," and I knew exactly what he meant, but I made him explain it to me. In the column where it says printed material, this number is much higher than all the other episodes. And I was like, yeah, it totally is. I agree.
Was it feet? Was it frames?
No, printed material.
Yeah,
so
in terms of the rolls of film. Yeah, okay.
No,
the takes.
I'm talking the print. When you print the material, that costs money.
I see,
so
yes.
In the first scenario, take 5 was one printed take.
Got it.
But it took them 5 tries to get there.
Now I understand. Thank you.
And mine, I did the first and second take, and I printed them both, but it only took me 2 tries to
That's
get
right.
There, right? You multiply that by 7, that's several hours of effort. Okay?
I see.
7 people around a boardroom table. So I say to John, why don't you crunch the numbers? And at the bottom of that column where it says printed text, why don't you compare that to the fact that we didn't go 2 hours overtime? Because the boardroom used to go hopelessly over because there were 7 people around the table talking, right? And so now we don't even think twice about it because we're all digital and you can just leave it rolling. And I always do. I basically print everything that we do
For sure.
because it's just memory space. It's not actual film, right? But in the old days, that was an interesting new strategy to do it instead of just getting one good take all the way through. And it was just something I stupidly picked up as a child watching my dad and Burt Reynolds and them just going and going and going and not stopping.
And
yeah, so John Smith would, if I came in under the 12 hours, I'd get the handshake, good job, buddy. And if he didn't, I get the, if I went over the 12 hours, even by just little, I get,
so he really all knew, the reinforcements.
He really knew that I was just trying to please him so much. I was like, I just want the handshake at the end.
Of course. Absolutely. I got a couple more and then we're going to let you go. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. David DeLuise's birthday is coming up November the 11th. Cairoian Canuck said, any chance you're going to meet up with them or is this going to be a phone call?
Yeah, I live in Vancouver and David lives in Los Angeles. So we'll definitely do a FaceTime.
Okay.
He called me for my birthday. My birthday was on the 6th. I've just turned
2 days ago?
Yeah.
Apologies, Peter. Happy birthday.
Don't apologize to me. I don't know.
They remember David. So
yeah. Well, David's a fan favorite. Everybody loves David. He's a sweetie.
You're my fan favorite.
Yeah. So David's going to be. I think he's 5 years younger than me, so he's going to be 54. I think.
Okay.
Either 54 or 55, and yeah, he's a Scorpio just like me. And
there you go.
If you think of it, go ahead and say happy birthday to Pete Shanahan / David DeLuise.
Steve D. How much convincing did it take to get the Batleth into the scene of the Goa'uld throne room and the other guys, or was that? Wait, you didn't do the other guys.
I did not do the other guys. I think Damian Kindler wrote that,
and Martin Wood directed it.
I don't know the details of that.
Yeah, that's not your episode. Okay, I apologize for that.
I wish it was. If I had any information, I would give it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Vegan Peace Writer, is there a story that you wanted to tell as a writer that didn't make it to the script stage, or perhaps did, but we didn't get to see because it got crowded out? I know that there was something that became It's Good to Be King, where you were wanting to have Michael Welsh back. We talked a little bit about it. And actually, no, we didn't really talk about that at all.
Well, I think that would have been interesting.
I think it would have been great.
Yeah, it would have been the clone. It was such a loose end to have a clone of RDA out there and not.
Oh, I know. It's a huge, and not wipe his brain.
Also, this is way before the Me Too movement. And so he's essentially a 45-year-old man in a teenager's body. And he looks back at some teenage girls from high school and he goes, it's going to be okay. And I was like, oh, this is gross. This is like Twilight's gross, where this guy is 100 years old, but he's making whoopee with a 16-year-old.
He is, but he's not, I mean,
what's the end of that sentence? What's the part where you say
he is old, but he has the experience, right? So if he wanted to mistreat someone, he would know what he was doing more than a 16-year-old boy would, or younger. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, it's still weird,
Look, if we're gonna
semantics,
I don't. If a 60-year-old man was dating a 16-year-old girl, we would say, probably that's not a great idea. And he's what is he, close to 100?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Didn't he have World War I experience? Isn't he close to
World War I experience?
No, I mean, isn't that part of his existence? Like when was he turned? I don't recall.
Jack? Jack was a Cold War veteran. So
I'm talking about the lead character in Twilight.
Oh, Oh, I'm not sure.
Twilight. So he's a vampire. He doesn't
Oh,
age.
yeah.
He looks like a
Okay.
little boy, but
Right.
he's
Yeah,
but he's
that's really
100 years
creepy.
old, and he's dating a 16-year-old.
That's
That's what I've been
true.
on about this whole time.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, brother. Yeah, it's that
Oh,
completely went over my head. So yeah,
yeah.
it's I thought you were talking about Jack.
No, well, but I'm drawing a parallel between
Yeah, I
he's
understand.
45. Even at 45, it's gross. So you shouldn't be dating a 16-year-old.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's what I'm talking about. And we just let that fly. I was like, oh, maybe we should not have done that.
My
Yeah.
last question for you, Scotty D wanted to know, how often would you encourage, because Rick was certainly his own beast in this regard. How often would you try to encourage a little bit of room to be left behind for the actors to riff with their characters into improv? Because it wasn't like Star Trek
Oh,
where every jot and tittle had to be exactly right.
no, yeah, yeah. So Rick had tremendous latitude
For sure.
to do what, and he would. I think Brad, at very early on, tells this wonderful story of his partnership with Richard Dean
Hmm.
Anderson, and they get the script back, the script notes from Richard Dean Anderson, and then there's a check mark next to this line, and then another check mark next to this line, and then another, and they go, "Hey, really likes." He's like, "Yeah, this is good." The check mark means this is good, and Brad's like, "I don't think check marks are. I'm just gonna check about the check marks." And so he brings the script and he knocks on Richard Dean Anderson's door and goes, "Hey, Richard, I just wanna just for clarity's sake, a check is a bad thing. Like fix it, right?" And Richard Dean Anderson, "Yeah."
Right.
So that was so Richard Dean Anderson, because he was an executive producer,
Exactly. You got the
and
scripts early.
Michael Greenberg was there to protect Richard Dean
Hmm.
Anderson's interests,
Hmm.
uh, and which was a really, really smart way to deal with it. So if you have executive producer status and power, it's hard to wield it as if you're memorizing lines and trying to do it.
Exactly.
So he had a whole other person in the person of Michael Greenberg looking out for his interests. You see how that works.
Hmm.
So if um, what's Adventures in Screen Trade?
Ventures and Screen Trade.
The guy who wrote Princess Bride, and
Oh,
one of his rules is
William Goldman.
that William Gould, thank you, that the lead character should not talk about himself, nor should he talk
Okay.
about anybody else, and ask as few questions as possible. Right. So Michael Greenberg incorporated this in a really, really strict way. So Richard Dean Anderson his character often did not ask questions. If he did ask questions, they were in the pursuit of a joke, or
Hmm.
but if somebody else could ask the same question, they would. And it was not. Um, it was better for him. I don't think he ever ended up talking about another character. If there was character backstory to be given, it would be anybody else, right? Except for him. And that was straight out of William Goldman that he was
I
incorporating that.
see.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Michael Greenberg was really smart about making sure that Richard Dean Anderson was being serviced properly, and his character
Hmm.
was being dealt with in the right, because that was their only focus, was the
It's
O'Neill
Jack.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so what was my original point about the power? Oh, so the latitude. If
Yeah,
Richard Dean Anderson wanted to change a line, of course he would have that latitude. And it was just the only thing that would stand in the way of that is it the same? Is it the attention the same? Is the scene accomplishing what it originally set out to do?
exactly.
Right. But he was always very smart about that. And so was Michael Greenberg. They were always very smart about that. So um, if
That's
we
perfect.
added if we added stuff and we knew we could cut it out, we just try some stuff. But the idea was these lines were not these were not just thrown on the page willy-nilly. A fair amount of thought has gone into this, and it also, we're paying off stuff in the future, that we're teeing up stuff in the future that the actor might not know about. So before you don't say something, it would be way better if you did say it and you added something that you wanted to, that we may manipulate later. But often I find that if an actor has too much latitude, they might not understand uh, if they don't understand the use of the line, or it's a secret to be determined later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want it to get
So
lost.
yeah. So you want to make sure that the actors respect
Hmm.
the system and don't just, arbitrarily just change stuff, right?
That's it,
Because
man.
that could really throw the entire mechanism out of
Well,
whack, especially if you're teeing up something for the next episode.
that's it
Yeah.
exactly. I'll never forget Brad saying to me, if you're changing it to make it better, great. If you're changing it just to change it, that pisses me off. So, and it only makes sense.
Yes, and
So,
that would happen. That happened more times than we should probably admit. Where you would say it is changed. It's not better. It's just
right.
different.
It's just
Yeah.
different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Peter, this has been fantastic. My mother invaded the chat. Hi, Mom. Hi, Peter. I think you're great. Don't you put yourself down to your brother. You're wonderful and adorable. Great show, son. Thanks,
Oh,
Mom.
that's so sweet.
Jeez.
What a sweetie.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on, man.
How
It's
do you?
always a pleasure to have you.
And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I love these chitty chats that we have,
I
and I
love that
love
you
what
watch the
you're doing.
show. I'm tickled that you are
Well,
one of our
I
watchers.
did. I watched Herbert Duncanson, who summed up the entire episode with the Asimov
Yeah. Once he found
quote,
his glasses.
and was yeah, and that Robert gave him that line, and I was like, Robert, you make sure that Herbert Duncanson should, okay, why not? And he did amazing, and he had that wonderful voice. He hadn't spoke.
No.
I don't know if you remember this,
Yeah.
but part of what we were making fun of
Yeah.
Chris Judge's character was he didn't speak much. He just says indeed, right? And he not only does he just say indeed, he can't even move his own eyebrow up. We had to pull it up with monofilament. So I was teasing him that
Yeah. And
even
Herbert admitted it.
that small thing he couldn't even do, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
so good,
And
man.
then Herbert Duncanson, I wish he had told you this, but he was in military service, and he confided in me once. He said, "I can sleep standing up." And I went, "No, you can't sleep standing. I can sleep standing up." And I said,
Oh,
I
prove
don't
it.
know if that's a talent. You should, yeah. Oh, you shouldn't brag about that if you're in the military either, right?
Or Don
Yeah.
bench pressing you.
Oh my God, yes,
Jeez. Man.
he was a beast. Don Davis.
Yeah.
I know that for the memorial thing that you put that in, that was something
I
that I
really
shared. But
appreciate that.
when I had worked with him on 21 Jump Street, and it was like an old friend coming back, and he said, "Hey," and I think we were 5 seconds into the pleasantries, and he said, "How much do you weigh?" And I said, I think back then I was about 220 pounds or so. And he goes, "I'm going to bench press you." And I said, "What?" And we were in the control room. And remember the stairs at the back? The
Hmm.
stairs at the back of the control room?
Yep.
He laid on his back underneath the stairs, and he said, "Stand on my feet." And I held the banister, or the steps rather, for balance, so I wouldn't fall over. And I stood on his hands, and he pushed all of my 225 pounds up like 3 times up. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, you're a Hercules."
Ridiculous.
Yes, he had no hair, but he was Hercules.
Man,
Yeah,
that was a strong guy in so many
yeah, he was,
ways.
yeah,
Peter,
incredible.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Good times, buddy. Give your mom my best.
I
Give her a
will.
kiss on both cheeks, French style.
There,
Not with the tongue, just on the both cheeks. Yeah.
Shudders. Shudders. All right, brother. Appreciate you. Be well.
Make sure you get the kiss, mama.
There you go. She's got it. I know. Peter DeLuise, everyone. Really appreciate you tuning in to the Stargate Oral History Project. I have a class coming up in just a few moments here, so I'm going to get going. My tremendous thanks to my production team here today who pulled this episode off. Lockwatcher, Kevin Weaver, Raj Luthra, you guys made the show possible. Tremendous thanks to my production team, Anthony, Jeremy, Kevin, Lockwatcher, Marcia, Raj, and Jacob. Appreciate all of you guys. We're going to be coming back with Kirk Douglas, the special effects technician, not the actor, later on this evening. So keep an eye out on Dial the Gate for those details. My name is David Reed, and I'll see you on the other side.